Hi and welcome to Strapi. Today we're going to take a look how to create and publish your first NPM package. We're going to take a look how to publish your plugin to NPM. And if you're wondering what's a plugin and what are you talking about, check out this course above to learn how you can develop plugins for Strapi. And if you're new to Strapi, don't worry about it because today's lesson is all about publishing your package to NPM. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a dummy plugin, and we're going to take a look at the two most important files, which is our package.json file and our README.md file. After that, we're going to push our plugin to GitHub and get it ready to be published to NPM. Following that, we're going to create our NPM account, log in our terminal, and then finally save our project to NPM. Once all of that is said and done, we're also going to take a look at the requirements and the steps you would take to publish your plugin to Strapi Marketplace. So without any ado, let's jump right into it. I'm already running instance of Strapi. If we take a look here, it's just the basic initial setup. I'm logged in and currently we don't have an additional plugin. So let's go ahead and create one. We're going to go back to our terminal. I'm going to stop the server with Control-C and clear so everyone could see what I'm doing. And I'm going to create a basic plugin by typing yarn strapi generate. This will run the generate command from which you're going to select the plugin option and give it npm deploy. That's going to be the name of our plugin. I'm going to click enter and copy this code. I'm going to open this in my code editor, and to register our plugin, we're going to go into the configuration folder, create a new file called plugins, and paste the code right here. Now, back in our terminal, we're going to type yarn build to rebuild our UI, and then we're going to run yarn develop to get everything started. Once everything's all set, let's run the yarn develop command. Now that we have our valid plugin installed, even though we're not going to build it out, we could now go through the steps of deploying it to NPM. But first, let's take a look at the folders that are important. Here, under our plugins, under our NPM deploy plugin that we created, we see all the folders that are necessary. And the most important files is our package.json file, which I'm going to show you in just a minute, all the required information that we need to have here for us to be able to correctly deploy to NPM, and also our README file where we're going to describe how someone can utilize our plugin. And if you're deploying any other code base, here you would just have a description of how to use the package that you created. And a simple example here is from the to-do plugin that I created before. This is where your README file gets displayed once your package is pushed to NPM. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a new repository. I'm going to call this test npm deploy, showing how to deploy your plugin to NPM. Now we could add README file here, or we could keep it blank. I'm going to click create repository. And now we're going to take this example, copy it, but here's one caveat. Going back to our code, notice how we're inside our Strapi application and our plugin lives in our plugin folder. We don't want to push all of our Strapi application to GitHub, but we only want to push our plugin. So in our terminal, I'm going to stop the server and I'm going to check out all the directories that we have. We're going to go into cd source. We're going to go into our plugins folder, and inside here, we're going to go inside our plugin that we just created, which is npm deploy. Now, this is where we're going to initialize our Git repository. So I'm going to paste in the code from before, click enter. It's going to go ahead and set everything up. I'm going to check the status, add all of the new code that we just wrote, and make sure that we do a commit. And we're going to push it. Now when we refresh our GitHub page, we see that our plugin has been pushed to GitHub. And the most important part here, yes, this README file is not a good example of what you want. Like I said before, the most important thing that you want to do is here to write out a description of what your package does or your plugin does and how to use it and implement it. You have to provide clear instructions to allow the user who is going to pull your package from NPM to use it correctly. But for brevity of this tutorial, I'm going to keep it as is. Just know that this is not the example you want to follow. Before we do the last few steps, let's take a look at a good example of what you should do. So here we are at Strapi Marketplace. Let's go to this big blue button. It looks great. And we're going to click NPM. And here we could see a great example of the README file that they use. They have a great video explaining how to set up the plugin and utilize it, which is awesome, and all the important information, which I think is really awesome. And if you want to look at some more examples of what the proper format is, you could always go to Strapi Marketplace and see all the different examples and all the different plugins and an example of how your README file should look like. But we'll come back to this in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at this article written by Maxime. It's the 6th part in his How to Create a Strapi 4 plugin. And here he shows you in more detail how to publish your plugin to NPM. You could check out this article. He has an example of the package.json file, and it's a great resource for you to use. I just wanted to share it with you, and I'll make sure to link to it on the description below. In our case, we're going to go back to our package.json file. I'm going to go ahead and paste my example and go through with it. Here you have the name of your plugin. You want to give it a version number, give a description of what your plugin or the package that you're deploying does. And in our case, because we're deploying a Strapi plugin, this is one of the most important parts. Make sure that you follow this format where you give the name, the display name for your plugin, the description, and the type would be plugin or the kind. Make sure you enter your repository. If your plugin had dependencies, that would be here. This is another important section, is make sure that you want to set peer dependencies to be at Strapi version 4, and make sure you add your information. And for maintainers, since you created the plugin, it would be you. And that's basically it. So now we could go ahead and create our NPM account unless you already have done so. And finally, the last step, if you haven't created an NPM account, let's go ahead and do that now. So here we are. We're going to go to sign up. We will enter a username and add an email, a good secure password, agree to the license agreement. And again, make sure your email is correct. Create account. If your username happens to be taken, not the other Paul, agree. Make sure you type in your password again, create account, and you will have an email sent to you to be able to activate your account. Go ahead and paste your super secure code, and now you're in. Great, we're almost done. And finally, let's deploy our plugin to NPM. So off camera, I made sure to commit all my latest changes, but make sure you run git status to make sure that your branch is up to date. If not, make sure you push all your recent code up to GitHub. Now that you're ready, let's run npm login. Here you have to provide your username, then provide your password, followed by your email. You'll be prompted to enter your one-time password. Make sure you paste your super secret key. And now that you're logged in. And finally, the final step that we have to do is just run npm publish. And here we are. Everything's all set. Back in npmjs.com, let's sign in. Once again, let's enter your confirmation number. And once we logged in and go to our packages, we should now see our plugin that we deployed. We could click on it, and this will bring us to our NPM page. And again, and just as a reminder, make sure you complete your README. We skipped it just for the sake of this example, but now you're ready to go ahead and submit your plugin to Strapi Marketplace. Once you're here at Strapi Marketplace, you could go to submit your plugin. And the first thing I would say, double check and read the guidelines. Clicking this section is going to show you all the things that you have to make sure that you do. Make sure your code is accessible through NPM. Make sure you give a good name to your plugin, add a logo or an image, add an icon, provide a short description, choose the MIT license, and agree to the terms and conditions. So back to submitting your plugin. This is where you would type your plugin name, your plugin URL, repository, simply add a description, your logo, your screenshot, which version of Strapi you're using, and how'd you discovered or what prompted you to submit your plugin, your name and email, agree to the terms and submit. And that's it. We did it. We finished and submitted our plugin to NPM. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and it gave you an overview and the process. And the most important part, remember, the video here is just to help you get the big picture of the process, see where the documentation is. But if you need extra help, don't forget we do have our awesome Discord channel, our forum, and also you could always ask questions in the comments below of this video. So big thank you, and I'll see you all in the next video.